We're going to be doing something a little bit different on the channel today, a little bit unorthodox. We're going to be reviewing a bunch of lightsabers. Not every lightsaber, there's far too many. We're not going to do any lightsaber variations. I'm mostly going to be sticking to ones from the movies and some of the TV series. So if you know a deep dive EU lore Jedi that you're just waiting for their lightsaber to show up, unfortunately it might not be on here. So without further ado, let's get to the first one. Alright, number one, we're going with Obi Wan Kenobi's. Now this is Obi Wan's that he had later in life. You see him use it prominently in A New Hope. But you also see it in Revenge of the Sith, so you know a good bridge of gap here. His lightsaber's kind of random looking. I think it's because they just threw a bunch of stuff together to make it. Like, there's like a piece of a World War I grenade and like a Rolls Royce and stuff on it. But, you know, it looks futuristic, just whatever they could cobble together in some studio in London. It works, but it doesn't look super wieldy. It doesn't look like something that I would want to use in a close combat. 7 out of 10. But next up, we got his master, Qui-Gon Jinn. This is a very simple designed one, and it has like a bunch of grooves in it, and it's very cylindrical. Is that the word? I think it's the word. It looks like a big cylinder. Kind of looks like a big stack of Oreos with like a little like red M&M there for the button. It's green, and that's something that I didn't touch on earlier, is that the blue lightsabers, those are more for the Jedi Knights who are out there fighting the Sith. Whereas green is more for the more Master Jedi, a bit more subdued. And I'm a green man myself. That's my personal favorite lightsaber color. It looks very smooth, and it looks like something that I would want to hold on to. 9 out of 10. Alright, next up, we're cutting right to the good stuff. We got Anakin's. And it also belonged to Luke and Rey at one point. This one's probably the most famous lightsaber. You see it all over the place. It's the one that, you know, is probably in the most movies of any individual lightsaber. And I feel like every kid who collected Star Wars stuff had at least one Anakin Luke Rey saber at one point in time. It's not something that's super elegant in its design. Again, it was just sort of cobbled together from all these other pieces. For all you Star Wars aficionados out there, you'll know that it was actually made from a Graflex flash attachment. 8 out of 10. But we're going to take a little trip to the dark side real quick. We're going with Darth Vader's lightsaber. Very similar in design to Anakin's. It has that kind of triangular looking slope on it, on the top. And it was probably made in the same sort of fashion when they were making the props of it. You can tell that Anakin, he just wanted something that had a lot more black on it that was similar to his lightsaber to begin with. Yeah, there's not too much. It just looks like a bad guy's lightsaber, and it fits the job very well, and it has that angry red look to it. 8 out of 10. Now we're going to go to Luke Skywalker's lightsaber. It's his green one, his Jedi Master one that he made himself. As you can see, this is one I own because this is actually my favorite lightsaber. So I'm going to try to put my biases aside here. It's very, very similar to the design of Obi Wan's lightsaber, except it's a lot more silver here, and it's a lot more smooth. It's got the green blade on it, which, again, for all you Star Wars aficionados, you'll know that is because it was hard for them to rotoscope the green lightsaber against the bright blue Tatooine desert when they were shooting. So, technical disadvantages made it cool. And Return of the Jedi is a movie where, when I think of it, the color green comes to mind. It has its flaws to it, but overall, I think we should just give it an unbiased look. 10 out of 10. So we got Obi Wan Kenobi's, and this is one that I've always thought was really cool looking. It kind of just looks like an old, weapon that a Viking would use, of just, if the lightsaber wasn't working, the blade wasn't, and the crystal inside was cracked or something, you could just bludgeon somebody with the bottom of it. It looks like that's just a tool you could use. I could see young Obi-Wan going to town on a battle droid with it. It's blue, and it was kicked down a pit by Darth Maul, which you could say is thematically him growing as a Jedi, because his youngling lightsaber, was he a youngling? How old was he in that movie? How old was he supposed to be? 20? Something like that, I don't know. And he briefly uses Qui-Gon's lightsaber. I think it's a very retro-futurist. It kind of has that 1950s smoothness to it. 8 out of 10. Next up, we probably got the most unique lightsaber on the list. You have Kylo Ren's, which has the 2 cross guards on the side, which he makes good use of. You know, he burns Finn on his shoulder. And it makes sense because, you know, when his uncle and his grandfather both had their hands or arms cut off in lightsaber combat, it would make sense that he would want to prevent something like that. And that's what a crossguard is used for. I think I've read before that the crystal inside is cracked, which is why it comes out in a very sparky sort of way, very electric-y. Doesn't have that, like, clean sort of blade that other lightsabers do. 8 out of 10. Next up, we got Mace Windu's lightsaber. A lot of fans love this one. I see tons and tons of love being thrown at it. But I've never been somebody who's been super in love with it before. It's a good lightsaber. You know, it's got the kind of gold accents on it. It's got the nice firm grip. And it's the only on-screen purple lightsaber, I believe, at least by a predominant character in it. And as we all know, Samuel L. Jackson walked on set one day. I was like, "Hey, George, what kind of lightsaber color can I have?" You know, the good guys have green and blue, bad guys have red, so you can have green or blue. Yeah, cool. Hey, can I have purple? Okay. 7 out of 10. Next up, we got Palpatine's lightsaber from Revenge of the Sith. He loses it a couple times. I don't know how he keeps getting it back. And honestly, I would say that this one is probably the least unique. Kind of just looks like the Mace Windu lightsaber with a few things taken off of it. I get that maybe it's supposed to be super small, that he can hide it so nobody knows that he's a Sith. Otherwise, I don't know, if he falls and someone helps him up and, like, his robe opens up or something, they're like, "Hey, why do you have a lightsaber? Are you a Jedi?" You can tell that the lightsabers in the prequels, a lot of them are smooth, especially for the side characters, probably to help out during combat so they wouldn't be very clunky and big like the original trilogy, and they'd be easier to duel with. 5 out of 10. Next up, we're dealing with Darth Maul. Oh yeah. This is probably one of the most memorable and unique lightsabers in all of Star Wars. Everybody knows Darth Maul's lightsaber. Everybody has wanted Darth Maul's lightsaber. It's the only on-screen double lightsaber that we've seen in any of the movies. It just looks like something that an evil dude would have. You know, it's very long. It's got those red buttons on it. It's just that very cold gray look. The top of it kind of reminds me of shower heads for some reason. But, you know, he makes good use of it. He's able to take on 2 Jedi with it. It gets broken, but he uses both of those in the Clone Wars. But in the Clone Wars, they do change up a little bit. But I'm just going to focus on the one from the film. I would argue that a lot of the success of The Phantom Menace actually had to do with the fight scene at the end, the Duel of the Fates fight scene. Because everybody was probably at the time like, "Oh my god, we have never seen a lightsaber like this before in the original trilogy. Now look at them. Is this what Star Wars used to be like before the original trilogy?" And I guess it worked. That movie made like $1 billion. I don't know. I was like 8 months old when that movie came out. But who doesn't like Darth Maul's lightsaber? 8 out of 10. Next up, we're dealing with Count Dooku's lightsaber. Now, who doesn't remember Count Dooku's? It's curved on it, and it seems very elegant. It looks like somebody who's actually done fencing and actual sword fights in real life, like Christopher Lee. It's quite big. I have held one before at Galaxy's Edge, and it is very big, but it's also one that I could see being very comfortable if I were to fight with it. Unfortunately, I did not fight with it. We don't see all too much of it. We see Count Dooku cut Anakin's arm off in Attack of the Clones. But it's cool because at the beginning of Revenge of the Sith, he brutally slices Count Dooku's head off with his own lightsaber. 7 out of 10. Next up, we got Asajj Ventress. She is the only character on this that has exclusively been in the Clone Wars. She was in both the 2D and the 3D animated shows, and she was the main villain of the Clone Wars film. But she wasn't in any of the main saga movies. And she is somebody that is one of the few characters that dual wields. She'll sometimes connect the lightsabers to make a double lightsaber, but they're also curved, like Count Dooku. So, you know, you get a little bit of Maul, you get a little bit of Dooku. There's a lot going into it. The design of it is very similar to her. She got stripes all over, and that's what you see on the lightsaber. And the top of it does kind of remind me of Obi Wan's younger saber. So there's a lot going into it. it doesn't really have any prominence within the series or anything. I mean, you see her with them, but it's something I wouldn't say is as memorable as Darth Maul's or Count Dooku's. So, you know, not a bad lightsaber, but not one that I would say is amazing. 7 out of 10. And lastly, we got Yoda's, the Jedi Master Yoda. This one also has a similar top to Anakin's and Vader's sabers, and it's very small. I've never held one before, but I think it's probably like probably this much on it. You know, it's one you also see Luke give Grogu in an episode of Mandalorian. Oh no, Book of Boba Fett. Silly me. You know, its first appearance was in Attack of the Clones, and then later on we see him use it in Revenge of the Sith when he kills a bunch of clones and then he goes and fights the Emperor. So it's featured quite a bit, and I'm glad that it just didn't disappear in the Council Chamber, is that it actually did live on. Luke probably had it with the Jedi text as we see him in The Last Jedi. So I'm glad that Luke still has it when he was rebuilding the Jedi Order, as we saw in that one episode. 7 out of 10. Alright guys, so this is looking like a pretty good list. I'm sorry if your favorite Jedi or Sith lightsaber was not on here, but leave me a comment below and tell me how you would do anything differently, if you would change the ratings, what you would add, what you would take away. Thank you so much for watching, and stay tuned for more videos in the future. Thank you.